We chew the fat and give our gut reactions on all things pop culture, film, TV and theatre. We talk to legends in the creative industry and those on the rise. We game old school. We support independent creatives. Got a project? Tell us about it. Get in touch. We do all of this, and a whole lot more. Like, subscribe, get involved. Join Lance Steen, Anthony Nielsen, and the Outcasts Creative.
Well, I was supposed to be having a night off of live streaming today, but unfortunately, that's not happened. I'm very aware. Well, let me start at the beginning. First of all, for those people that don't know, I've been following the post office scandal since the first article in Computer Weekly. I have done a number of stage plays in my lifetime about social issue, I call them social issue based dramas, I suppose you call them. I've tackled such subjects as the Marchioness inquiry, the Bloody Sunday. I've done shows about the Victoria Climbié inquiry, and a whole other plethora of topics, including a big live stream of a stage play of the Kent State shootings in protests against the expansion of the Vietnam War in May 1970. I mean, that's just the tip of the iceberg. In any case, so I'm well versed in taking on subjects of this nature, and that's kind of given me a sense of when things are not quite right with stuff that's being portrayed in the media. You can usually tell. You get I suppose journalists get a similar thing. You get a sixth sense for these things when things are not all as they appear. And the story of Seema Misra is really what first switched me on to the post office scandal, because she was and still is a dead ringer for my old postmistress, who used to run a post office on the middle of Archway Road. It was closed down sometime, I think, in the early 2000s, probably around 2003, 2004. But the postmistress there, just at sort of first glance, I don't remember her that well, but when I saw Seema Misra in the press, and she had been arrested and convicted, in fact, I thought that was my local sub postmistress. So that is the thing which tuned me onto the post office scandal, what now is known as the Horizon Post Office scandal. I took a very diligent interest in it from that point forwards, and I was particularly interested in doing a play about it. And originally that play, which I first wrote around 2011, 2010, something like that, was a two-hander about two women in prison, one of whom was definitely innocent, who was based on Seema Misra's character, and the other of whom was just a fictional character, which I was going to kind of bounce off the issues around. That play then morphed into the Post Office Monologues, which I wrote around 2013, 2014. And that production, which was a six-hander, was the one that I was originally going to stage. However, just as I was sort of gearing up to do that, a whole load of other information about the post office scandal broke wide open. And it was clear that what we'd heard thus far was just the tip of the iceberg. So I said to my then partner, I think I better put this on pause before I take it any further, and we should wait to see what else comes out. Good to see that we've got a couple of Postmasters in the chat, including Wendy Buffrey, who's a good friend of mine, and Mark Kelly, who's an even better friend of mine. And also a couple of my regulars are here as well. Thank you very much for tuning in. I'll try and make this a bit more visually interesting than just me chatting. And there will be a couple of people joining me in a second. So our play, which ultimately ended up being called False Accounts, was first staged. I started writing it in 2019, the current version of it. and it was due to stage in 2020. But as we know, that was the year the pandemic happened. So, of course, it did not stage at that time. It was put on pause. And in fact, during the pandemic, I did a number of other productions because I really felt that this one, we really needed to do it on a stage. I kind of regret that now. I think actually we probably could have done it as an online play, and maybe that would have been a better way of doing it when everyone was watching things online. But anyway, so we did the play in October and November of 2022. We started casting it way before that. I think in Easter, and we were sort of rehearsing it over the summer and so on. And this was with a group of actors that predominantly came from the core of the Outcast Creative, which was the collective that we did stuff with online during the lockdown. We didn't have a budget. We tried to get some money. We couldn't get any money for it. And I thought, well, you know what? If we're going to do a production about the biggest miscarriage of justice in British history, we should get on and do it. And the court case had just happened, and the postmaster, the first group of postmasters, had just been exonerated. There was the High Court judgment, which basically ruled that the Horizon evidence was completely unreliable, which we all knew. And there was a million other implications that followed. And of course, this is 2 years before the television drama, and even longer before any other stage play came. Since then, we've had a stage play called Glitch, which I haven't seen it, but I've heard it's very good. It's a four-hander. It's a sort of shorter play that focuses on one postmaster story. And now we've got the Post Office Scandal, the musical. I'm not sure if that's the correct title, but the BBC have just done a massive article on that. Now, if you've read the scrolling text going along the bottom of the screen, I need to reiterate this point, and I'll say it again. As far as I am concerned, the more plays, films, books, drama series, subjects on this, the better. I think Netflix should do a 10-part, highly, big budget drama on the whole thing. So much more has come out since even the ITV drama was completed. There's a much bigger story here to tell. Somebody should do a recreation of the Public Inquiry with a massive budget behind it. We've had several plays of that nature that have been done on stage before. So I'm all in favour of this story being told again and again from multiple perspectives. I don't think the sock puppet musical was particularly warranted. I won't comment further on that. But as far as I'm concerned, every other stage play has got something to contribute. They're probably all saying something different. What I have an issue with is our play being completely ignored. A lot of people worked extremely hard on it, and a huge number of postmasters came to see it. In fact, I think a larger number of postmasters came to see our stage production than any of the other stage productions that have been on. We had 30 down on one night, and we had, and that was just at the first run in 2022. We've done the play 4 times. It started at the Birmingham Theatre above the pub there, the old Joint Stock. Fantastic theatre, by the way. Great for small theatre companies if you're ever looking for somewhere in Birmingham to do a stage play. And then we did London, and we did the Questors Theatre in London. I'd always wanted to do a play at the Questors because my parents used to go there, arduously as when they in their youth, and so it was great to kind of bring that full circle and do a show there. Then we did it twice more in London. We did it at the OSO Theatre in Barnes, and we did it at the Gatehouse in Highgate, which I'd always wanted to do a show there. And the play was incredibly well received. And it told the story of 6 postmasters who told their story through very powerful intercut monologues, which were bisected by a number of other scenes, which were largely portrayed in satire. But people were crying that were coming to see it. The monologues were extremely powerful. So as much as I think it's great that there's a Post Office Scandal musical, for there to be a headline that claims that it shows the heartache that the TV drama didn't. Well, we contacted the BBC when we were doing our play. We contacted them every time the play was being staged, we contacted BBC Birmingham, BBC Radio, Southeast News, all of those different entities of the BBC. We couldn't get a single person to do a story on our show. Not one of them were interested. And I mean, this is before the TV drama blew the whole thing wide open, but there was certainly a lot of other reporting going on about Horizon at this time, a lot. And so I just want to, so this is about the TV drama. And I can see the cast are really throwing themselves into it, and it's great. And I'd quite like to go and see this musical if I get a chance. But I just think that the thing that irritates me is here, another play on the subject called Glitch opened in Reading in June. Well, look, if you're going to say that, you also really need to say, and there was another play called False Accounts that covered this same topic 3 years ago. That was us. And it just feels like, in terms of the dramatic narrative here, we are being completely erased from the history books. And this is, I'm annoyed, not just on the part of myself, and of course I wrote the thing, but I'm annoyed on the part of all the people that took part, that worked very hard. And we had no funding whatsoever. We didn't have any funding. It was all profit share and whatnot. And I worked on this thing for 2 years. And it's one of the proudest moments of my life doing this show. So I just want to show something else quickly before I bring a guest on. And I've also, this is very impromptu, so but I have notified a load of the cast from the original production in case they want to pop on. So this is, I'm going to put a photograph up now. This is the cast from the production of False Accounts. This is on the last night in at the Questors Theatre in Ealing. And we had a mixed cast. We had a London cast and we had a Birmingham cast. And this is most of them all kind of put together on the stage. I think Rosanna Preston is the only one who's missing because she wasn't there in the evening. And this is just before or just during, I'm there holding my hat there. This is just before I said we've got a load of the real heroes in the theatre tonight. And I think we'd seen 4 or 5. That's a lovely comment from Wendy Buffrey there. Who's former sub postmaster. Thank you ever so much, Wendy. Wendy, if you want to come on, I'll send you the link. Just be aware I've lost all of my phone numbers. My phone got hacked recently. All my numbers got deleted. So I no longer have anyone's phone number, but you can message me on Twitter or you can message me on Facebook and I'll send you the link. So this is, and I'm just saying this speech, and in this speech, I'm saying, we would like the real heroes, several of whom are in the theatre. And we knew that there was about, I think we'd seen about 5 or 6 who we kind of, I think there was one who'd already been once and they decided to come again. And then I recognised 1 or 2 others and I was like, okay, I said to the cast, there's quite a few people, there's quite a few sub postmasters in tonight. And we're going to, I pre-warned them and I said, we're going to address that at the end. So I want everybody to stay on stage at the end. And I pre-warned them that we were going to do that. Okay. And so this is when I said, if you'd please come down and join us. Now a whole load of them have come down onto the stage. And there were several of them. I think there's about 8 in this photo, but there were more that came down after this photo was taken. There was a huge number. Now, this photograph is taken by Nick Wallace. So I've credited him for this photo in the subtext of this stream because he's quite precious about his photos, as any journalist should be. I'll just give this photo some context. So I had just said, I'd done a bit of a speech about how these guys on stage with us now, the real heroes, you, the audience, must take action. You must write your own piece. You must do this. You must do that kind of thing. And then I sort of this guy, I think his name's John, put his arm around me and said, "I'll never forget these words as long as I live. I'll never forget these words." He put his arm around me and he said a couple of other things, which I have forgotten. And then he said, "We thought the British people had forgotten us. Tonight, you've proved to us that that was not true. You've restored my faith in the human race." And you can see when he says those words, Dickon on my left, who's behind me, who co-directed the show with me, co-produced it, he's about to burst into tears. I'm looking down because I'm about to burst into tears. Kenny and Alan, who are on the far left of the picture, two of the cast looking very proud. That's Tim behind me, who's one of the sub postmasters. And then this is on the left. This is a lovely gentleman from Egypt. God, his name escapes me. I always know his name, and it's just gone. Who, you know, had his whole reputation, everything, livelihood destroyed by this terrible scandal. I've never had a prouder moment in my life than that. Never. And it's one of those things that you just know you did the right thing. You just know all of the effort was worth it. Oh, Tim, in fact, is in the stream now. So I don't know if any of the sub postmasters watching, I've got Mark Kelly in the wings as well, want to come on. But if you do, message me on Twitter now and I'll send you the stream. And look, I'm just going to reiterate this again before I say anything else. I am very happy that there are other shows, plays, films, books, whatever, the more the better, about this scandal being made, because until every postmaster has had every bit of financial redress they are owed, as far as I'm concerned, you know, this is not over. So the more that we keep it in the public domain, the better, right? What does annoy me is that we made a contribution towards this struggle, and it just feels like the history books are already erasing that contribution, and I think that's very unfair. It's not only unfair on me, who wrote and rewrote the play for God knows how many years, and I kept all this information, I kept up to speed with it all, and so on, you know, to keep on tabs with what was going on, and kept thinking, okay, we've got to change this. How are we going to make this play work? How are we going to get the audience to engage with this and not depress them too much? Because that was a challenge of itself, and you know, ultimately that was really achieved by well, just kind of sheer will, really, and we did we went down the satire route. Sorry, I'm just sending the link to a couple of people who've asked for it. Yeah, we went down the satire route, and that by injecting sort of some dark comedy, and not to belittle the tragedy of the story at all. I was always very careful about that. You know, that's how we got the message across. That's how we got the audience engaged. They could laugh, but they could laugh uncomfortably, because it was uncomfortable, you know. So I've got Mark here. Good to see you, Mr. Kelly.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Yeah, just in bed having a little relaxing
Well,
night,
I mean,
watching Swans.
to be fair, it's your fault that this is happening, because you sent me the write up on the musical, which is great that it's getting press. It's very difficult for any show these days to get press, especially one that's, you know, got that I know they've got a bit of funding, but it's still they haven't got a lot of funding. Yeah. And they're taking it all around the country. They're going to like a lot of kind of halls, church halls, and that kind of thing. So they're making a real effort to get it on, which I think is fantastic. We tried to do something similar, but you know, we had quite a large cast for the show, and we were trying to get people some money and all the rest of it. Tim, I've just sent you the link on Twitter, mate, if you want to pop on real quick. Yeah, it just feels that our contribution, apart from by the Postmasters, of course, I mean, maybe that's the important thing, but just rightly, you know, if somebody who worked on the show saw that article today, they'd be rightly quite pissed off. Like, what, you know, you're mentioning the other show that happened. Why not mention ours as well? And ours had a pretty big impact on the time at the time to the people who mattered.
Yes.
They had never seen anybody tell the story before, and we went right at it. None of it was off limits. I had access to all of the transcripts for Operation Sparrow, thanks to a whistleblower. All of those scenes, the important elements of those scenes, all went in the show. You know, yeah, thank you, Wendy. His name's Parmood. Thank you so much, Parmood. What a wonderful man. And I've met his son as well. His son came to see the show with him and personally thanked me, which was, you know, an honor, really. You know, it's a massive honor to have Dickon would tell you the same thing, to have been involved in this. But it's just frustrating for us that sometimes we feel, you know, it's like we never existed. And I don't mind people just briefly mentioning us and then plugging the thing at hand. That's fine. We are yesterday's news. That's fine. But we are still part of the news. So it just feels like we have been a bit deleted from it all, which is a bit unfair, really. I mean, we did try to get the show on again. We tried to get it on a couple of times, and we just couldn't get any funding for it. You know, it was really annoying. But yeah, there you go. So yeah. So Mark, what do you want to say? Anything else?
The inquiry is still ongoing, starting again on the 4th of November.
Yeah,
But
you've been
also,
attending it quite a bit, haven't you? You've been going down there quite a bit.
yeah, but also the scandal hasn't finished. A lot of the postmasters still haven't got their redress, and they're still fighting tooth and nail for what is due to them. Like one person whose compensation was like £2 million only got offered, I think it was £50, something like that.
Right. Yeah, I heard that. That's disgraceful. And I mean, how much should that person have got?
It was like £2 million, something like that.
Right. What's the latest update on the compensation, or do you think they're just waiting to see what Sir Win is going to say?
I think they try and there's too many cooks in the pot. Really, I think they need to have it by a third party, completely taken out of Department of Business Trade and out of the post office, and just have it looked at by a third party. I don't think they're waiting for the inquiry. I'm thinking they don't want to set a precedent for other scandals and things.
Yeah, I mean, my gut feeling on Sir Win is good.
Yeah.
Having listened, if I'm not at the inquiry, I'm watching it at home, and I've had it on all the time. I've got one of my cars trying to come on, but they can't get their mic and camera connected, so they're trying to come on, but they can't. That's so annoying. But yeah, so hold on. Yeah, so sorry, Mark, carry on.
And also, what I also think is the post office I think Fujitsu has learned from their errors, from the mistake, and they're trying to now made good of their errors of the ways from the meetings I had with Fujitsu and things.
Right.
Whereas the post office, they are actually going down the same route as the past. They are trying to take out Fujitsu from the equation so they can, going forward, prosecute more postmasters in the future, either civilly or through prosecution, as was come out from the inquiry last week, where they wanted to have use the post office salary of the postmaster to create a loss pool, and the loss
Right.
pool will cover all the losses.
Right. That's ridiculous.
Yeah,
So
and they,
you're basically still stealing from the people that are working from you.
yeah, and what they're trying to do now is they want to get rid of Fujitsu um, running Horizon and do it in house, have other people run the data center and things,
Right.
but the actual data itself will then be controlled by the post office.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, you were saying that to me earlier. What do you think about that?
I think that's not going to be good because, as they said in the inquiry, live on the inquiry, so you can look on the inquiry. It was the person before Ben Folt who said it. He was saying that because they've got 5 cases at the moment outstanding, uh, three in three from one police force and two on another police force, for potential losses, and they said if Fujitsu won't say Horizon is a robust system, we'll get another expert to say it was.
Right, that's absurd. That's just them
Yeah,
repeating the mistakes of the past. It's just
yeah,
they're going around in circles, and then further down the road, those people will be fighting for their innocence as well, and you'll be back to square one again. This is utter nonsense.
that's why I
The
don't
more
think it should
things
be
change, the more things stay the same, kind of thing.
yeah, that's why I don't think it should be in house. Like at the moment, Fujitsu is being a gatekeeper,
Right.
surprisingly.
So what is the solution in your eyes? What do you think should happen to take this forward?
I think they need a complete overhaul of the post office management. Get rid of a lot of the people that are still there that was involved in the scandal. Two
Mm.
two good examples I can think of is Ronick Williams and Stephen Bradshaw.
Oh
The,
my God, I can't even believe he's still working there. I mean, that was unbelievable that
mm,
guy is still working there after I saw him give evidence as well.
yeah,
Christ,
he's been promoted now as well.
good God.
Yeah, he's quite high up in the security. But anyway, get rid of those people. And then I think the post office need to be sort of mutualised like the John Lewis type scheme. But also, I think they need a post office committee. But the post office committee, I don't agree with the National Federation. I don't think it should be senior National Federation people, just those people. It needs to be former postmaster that been affected from the scandal. It needs to be current postmasters that can be made of mixture of CWU members, Voice of Postmaster, National Federation Postmaster, or non-members, and collectively we will look over any suggestions, like future Horizon scheme or procedures, and decide if it should go ahead or not. And then we will, like, as us as the victims, we will say, well, no, you're repeating your own mistakes. This should be removed. And then hopefully they will learn from the mistakes and we can then go away because of our exits and stuff.
I just
Hi,
want to
Tim.
welcome Tim Brentnell to the stream. Great to see you, Tim. It's been a while since.
Yeah, hi Lance, how are you? Obviously,
Well,
understandably annoyed at the moment.
It is just, I mean, this has happened a couple of times lately. We had it when Glitch dropped, which was the other stage play before, and that got some press. I'm very glad it got some press. And, you know, I had to correct a couple of reporters there who were like saying, oh, this is the first play about the post office scandal. And I'm like, no, it's not. You know, ours was on 2 years ago. Sorry.
Yeah, I think maybe that's the problem, is the fact that you know, there wasn't the sort of awareness 2 years ago. So your valiant efforts sort of got overlooked because the general population just weren't aware until earlier this year, and for some reason it's been passed over. But surely, you know, any kind of journalist would give it a quick Google or something and be able to find, you know, links back to your play. Or if they spoke to any of us, obviously, you know, a great number of us came to see it and felt sort of you know, a great empowerment by what you did.
Yeah, I think probably between the 4 runs that we did of the show, at least 60, and I think that's probably a low estimation that I count in total, because of course we had a whole load more people come down the second year we did the show. The 2 Seamers, sort of having heard, you know, that the show was good, came along, plus a whole load of other people, and the lovely African lady whose name currently is off my memory right now, but she came to see it, and that was the first time her and Seema Misra had met. So not only were we, and we had a few of those, so not only were we getting Postmasters coming down to watch the show, we had people that came that hadn't come forward, who had lost money, who were watching the show and telling us their stories. And I was sort of then like really saying, look, guys, you've got to contact the 555 or one of the lawyers, you know, here's some numbers. And and then we also had Postmasters coming that had never met each other. So there were all these kind of little mini reunions going on after the show. So it was quite sort of moving to see all of that unfold.
Yeah, I think your number of 60 is wildly low there, because I think the night that I came along, I happened to be in the London area, and I came to see a performance. I'm sure there's 25 to 30 of us there on that one evening.
Yeah, there were 30 of you there. We had another during the Birmingham run. Over the whole run, we probably had another 30. Actually, no. So you're right. It was probably closer to 100 over the 2 years. Maybe even 150. You're right. Yeah. I am underestimating it. I
mean, and you were a very early sort of adopter of the story, to your credit, because I know myself and other people that I spoke to were apprehensive about a play being put on about it, because we struggled to explain the nuances and the technicalities and the just the massive web of the story to our friends and family and have them understand it. So we thought perhaps someone totally outside like yourself, you know, my concern, and certainly the concern of a lot of other people I spoke to, was like, well, will he really understand what actually happened? And to your credit, you did. And I heard you saying on the stream earlier, managed to tell it with a little bit of uncomfortable humour and make a very engaging play about it. And the fact that it's now being overlooked, I can't imagine how annoyed you are, because it's annoying for us sitting here on your side.
Yeah, again, I'm not really asking for anything other than, you know, I'd like it to be referenced. If someone's going to write a write-up or do an article and start talking about, you know, the media efforts, so to speak, that took place, I'd certainly be keen to make sure ours was our contribution isn't overlooked, and it just feels to me like a lot of the time it is being overlooked. There's actually, I can't put this in public domain because the actors were only, you know, they basically agreed to do the stage show. But the production that came the second year, I have a very good video of it, and because I paid for my friend Simon Cox, who's a filmmaker, to come down and shoot it for us during the matinee. This is it. It's on YouTube, but it's hidden. And for anyone who, I think you'll be able to hear the audio on this. For anyone who's like doubts if we got to the heartache of this show, and I've got Wendy Buffery here as well now, who's off camera, but she's here. Another former postmaster. Thank you for popping in, Wendy.
You're welcome.
You can see this clip, and I'll show you guys a quick clip. And this is of Postmaster. The number of the postmaster, I think, was number Postmaster 4. All of our postmasters were called Smith because we wanted to kind of keep them like blanket characters that could represent anyone affected by the scandal. They were archetypes. So, you know, a woman from who'd been a clerk from school, and there was another one who was very posh, and another one who'd come sort of from working class background, another one who was an accountant, you know, very much kind of an Alan Bates type character. But they all could be anybody, was the idea. This is towards the end of the first act, just before the interval, and this postmaster talks about the impact that the scandal is having on him.
Sacked by the post office. And even though I've given them thousands of pounds of missing money over the years, they still found me to be partly responsible for the burglary and sending a further demand for £7,500. Woohoo! It was clear that nobody actually wanted to help me. As far as they were concerned, I was just another criminal. I've never felt so helpless in all my life. I became withdrawn and detached from everything and everyone around me. My wife, she tried. She really did. I thought that's a breaking point. I just couldn't take any more. And I've reached mine.
After I was questioned by the auditors at my branch, I was cautioned, and then they suggested that we go down to a local police.
So whoa. Just going to stop that there. Sorry, I can't show too much of it for all kinds of copyright reasons, but you get the sense of it there. And that speech that we pick up again a couple of minutes later is of the postmaster who goes on to commit suicide. Which is what happens in our show. So I didn't shy away from any of that. I wanted to show the audience the reality of everything that happened, both from the postmaster's point of view and also what went on behind the scenes. Yeah, Martin Griffin, based on him and one other character. And, you know, and we knew we were portraying people's real lives here, so that's why I didn't use any real names, because it was very difficult to reach out to people individually and say, hey, you know, one of the characters is kind of partly based on you. I can't really show you the play yet, but, you know, do you want to give it your endorsement? It doesn't really work like that. It really had to all be done on faith, and I knew this was really going to test me, and if you guys had hated it, it would have destroyed my whole career, such as it is. I think, Wendy, I think you were one of the first people to come down and see it in Birmingham, weren't you?
Yeah, it was one of the first. It was the first night in Birmingham, I think. I came with my sister.
Because I remember you were sitting on the front row, if I remember rightly.
Yeah,
it was
quite small, but it was right on top of the action. I have to admit, when the play first started, I thought it doesn't it's not, they don't get it. And then as the play progressed, it was just incredible to watch. It was so powerful. and it was us. It was what had happened to us, and it wouldn't matter which sub postmaster you had portrayed. We'd all been there, and we all understood every single word that was being said.
Yeah. Well, I remember your kind comments after the show, and I think also, were you one of the people that spoke to Nick Wallace about it?
Yes, I was. Yeah.
Because then there was kind of of course, for those people who don't know, Nick Wallace has followed the scandal from the very beginning. Been extremely proactive journalist on behalf of the Postmasters. He's written a wonderful book called the Post Office Scandal. I think Great Post Office Scandal. I've got it behind me. I did have 2 copies of it, but one of the casters nicked one of them, and it's a fantastic book. There's a revised edition which I also have. I dare say there'll probably be a revised edition coming out in the not too distant future, because things about this are still coming out, you know. I mean, Wendy, what's your hope for the future, and have you had any financial redress yet?
Yes, I have had mine.
Okay, so I'll get a drink off you and I'll see you next time. But yeah, look, I'm
Believe
pleased.
me, there wasn't that much, and there's not enough left. There's not a lot left.
No, I'll probably be buying you one.
Yeah, quite
sure.
possibly.
Well, at least I'm glad that you've had that. Very glad. But obviously, I imagine in a lot of other ways, you're still very unsatisfied and sort of fingers crossed for what Sir Wyn's going to deliver in his report.
Well, I've got a lot of respect for Sir Wyn. He's a very sharp man.
He is.
He's incredibly insightful. So I'm just hoping that the recommendations that he gives at the end of all of this really go some way to making those that are culpable in all of this have to face some sort of some sort of justice. Personally, I don't think it's going to happen, but
yeah, I mean,
it's difficult to see any of these people actually getting convicted or, well, go through anything like we've gone through anyway.
It's interesting that a lot of my guests, or a lot of my viewers on my channel are American, because I often stream late, and of course for them it's early because they're behind us. And Phalanx68 says, read of this a few times in the United States. Every time it seemed to be another high up person taking themselves out of responsibility. Mate, you've no idea how true that is.
Very true. Very true.
And right now I'm on with 3 victims. I hope it's okay to call you victims, because you were victims of this scandal. And I think all 3 of you had convictions. Is that right?
I did, definitely, yeah.
Wendy did. Tim did. Mark, you didn't.
No. They threatened me with for prosecution if I made the bug I found public. They said
that's right.
They will prosecute my wife, so she'll get deported, and prosecute me under the Official Secrets Act.
Yeah. So, you know, Mark as good as had his life destroyed. Just, you know, so same thing, really.
I don't think it matters whether you were prosecuted or whether you were convicted or found innocent. Every single one of us is suffered in pretty much the same way.
Yeah.
Because our lives were taken away from us, put in a washing machine, completely messed up, and just completely rinsed.
Yeah. And the community saw you as guilty, even if you wasn't prosecuted or you were found innocent. So
how's that been since the, you know, obviously there's so much press on this now. The public inquiry is being streamed live every day. I've been there personally 30 times myself. And you know, sometimes it's more interesting watching the inquiry back here because I'm seeing all the comments in the chat from members of the general public. It's very interesting to and everybody is so on side with you now. Have you had people recognise you and come up to the street, or even people come up and apologise maybe for the way they behaved in the past?
Definitely.
Right.
Definitely. I was walking through Cheltenham the other day with my granddaughter, and it was 7 people that came up to me in a half an hour walk.
My God, that's a
and and all of them were really good. In fact, my granddaughter was getting a bit fed up with it, and she said, "This celebrity gran, it's not all that, is it?"
Tim, did you want to say something there?
Yeah, very much. I mean, just echoing very much what Wendy said. We were when we were in position of Postmasters, people have to remember that we were very much visible as a central point of a community. And when we were suspended in the first instance, you're immediately removed from that position. So everybody that used to come to your post office knows something's up because you're suddenly not there. So the rumours start immediately.
Yeah.
I, the same as Wendy, I've had people come up on both sides of the hands, both come up to support me, and voice their backing of me, and people who perhaps spread rumours or stopped coming to use my shop have come and apologised, and very much like Wendy's granddaughter Steph, my partner, has said, can we please go shopping without somebody stopping to talk to you about the post office, but and without trying to sound like a wannabe Z-lister, it's really heartening because we've all been through years, a decade of people thinking we're criminals and talking behind our backs about us. So it's really nice to have people come up to us and want to approach us just to say either that they're sorry for thinking that of us, or that it's that they have our support for what we've been through.
I was going to say, we had a person coming today in my wife's shop who actually used to go to Tim's post office, and she was very apologetic to Tim, how he was treated by the community at the time and things.
Right.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, it happens all over. We did when I was in Manchester doing a BBC thing with a group of people on Radio 5. I had the son of an ex-customer phoned in to apologise for sort of making me a pariah, not crossing the road and not coming into the business. I'm sure lots of people said things about us that we didn't even realise. But it is nice that people are supporting us now, and those people that did do that, I certainly appreciate that. Sometimes for people to put their hands up and say I was wrong is an even bigger thing, so it is appreciated.
And that's quite rare that people will do that. Sorry, go on, Mark.
Well, like I said, there was this, we had a customer came in in my wife's shop, and we were starting talking about the post office, and she said, "Oh, I know Tim. He was my postmaster, and at the time, we felt he was guilty, and but we feel guilty now ourselves, and wish him all the best and things."
Right. Okay. So what? If I can ask each of you, and I guess Mark, you kind of covered this question earlier, but Wendy and Tim, what are you hoping from the inquiry, and what do you want to see happen? I mean, I'm not of the illusion myself that if anybody serves prison time, this will be the first time there's been a public inquiry which has resulted in prosecutions, which has resulted in people going to prison. I can't think of another one. I did a play about the Victoria Climbié inquiry. No one went to prison over that. I did one about the Marchioness. No one went to prison over that. I know there was plays about Bloody Sunday, Lawrence. No one went to prison over those. I'm not saying in all these instances people should have gone to prison. These are complex topics which warrant discussion. But nevertheless, we've got a track record in this country of, particularly where I would say sort of corporate malfeasance occurs, that people are not held accountable. In this case, what's different about this case is every single person in the country knows a postmaster. Not every single person in the country knew someone on the Marchioness in 1989. We all know a postmaster. We've all been to a post office. And what we also know as a nation is that people knew, and they still let you guys go to prison. People knew. Absolutely no question that they didn't know. And that, for me, is the unforgivable thing. I mean, if people, the thing that people need to understand, and the thing that this is where the outcry needs to be, if no one goes to prison over this, every single person in every single household needs to write to their MP that day immediately. There needs to be a national outcry, because what basically the government will be saying is it's okay for these people to lie. It's okay for these people to put innocent people to prison. We're not going to do anything about it. We're going to let them get away with it. And that is going to undermine the entire justice system for our entire society. The stakes here are far, 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 far bigger than they've ever been before with anything like this. That's the only reason why I think something might happen in your favour this time, if the government doesn't want a riot on its hands. You know, that's my view. But Wendy, what do you think?
I think it's already been undermined, in as much as anybody with 3 brain cells can watch these people given evidence at the inquiry and see that they're lying through their teeth to protect themselves.
Yeah.
And nobody's stopping them doing that.
Yeah.
No, it's oh, it wasn't my fault. I didn't know. Wasn't anything to do with me. That wasn't my job. And it's just typical of the type of people that have, well, that will get away with it. I'm under no illusion that we're actually going to get any sort of justice from this inquiry, to be honest. I would like to be proved wrong.
Yeah, no, indeed, as would I. Tim, just any thoughts on what are you expecting and hoping for?
Well, I'm hoping for some sort of justice. Whether I expect it or not is a different answer. Although I read within the last week, I know, and excuse me if I'm wrong, because there are so many levels to this, but I think it was something like the SRA, the Solicitors Regulatory Authority, is clearing time in its books next year, for after the Sir Wynn's report has landed, because I think the in-house sort of legal advice or solicitors that the Post Office have worked well outside of their industry guidelines before we even start talking about criminal law. They will face, I'm sure they'll face at the least sort of professional sanctions and never be able to work again, and that might give those people a little bit of a chat, a little bit of a chance to understand how we felt for the last sort of 15 years. As you touched on that, it's a massive scandal, because now, I mean, that without sort of dimming the light that you shone, the drama just after Christmas put it into everybody's living rooms. And everybody now knows about it. I mean, I've spent the last few years, even since my conviction was quashed, trying to explain to people what happened and how it had affected me, and people even quite close to me hadn't heard of it. But now everybody has, and that's put extra pressure on government and things like that. We know, without the drama, I think we'd all still be waiting for any kind of compensation, because we would have had it kicked down the road until the inquiry had finished.
Yeah.
But I'm sure police investigations, etc., are waiting on the end of that because they don't want to launch down something and then Sir Win comes out with something totally contradictory, or blazes a trail down a completely different path. I'd be very disappointed if we don't see things start to happen next year.
I've got one of the cast from False Accounts on with us. Being an actor, she's not on camera because she hasn't had time to do her makeup. But Elaine Ward is here, and Elaine is wearing the green dress with the red hair in this cast picture. This is on the last night of False Accounts at Ealing, and I think, in fact, if I remember rightly, Elaine. First of all, Elaine, I should introduce and say that Elaine played, among other roles in the show, Paula Venables. Fun times for her. A good-looking version of Paula Venables, I should say. And Elaine, you came. We did a matinee on the last night in Ealing. We did 2 performances. We did one during the day, which had most of the Birmingham cast in it, kind of a mishmash a bit, which you were in. So you got to perform in the afternoon. Yeah. And then you stayed for the evening show.
Yeah.
And you got to experience something that I didn't. You were watching it in the audience with a whole load of other postmasters, and you were seeing it from the audience perspective when I started talking, and when John put his arm around me and said what he said, which I mentioned earlier. Can you just talk to us a bit about that last night? Because you've got a totally different perspective on it than the rest of us.
To me, it was like every night. It was just it was visceral. It was, the atmosphere was tenable. It was just. I don't think going into it we ever had any idea of the impact that it was going to have, and the atmosphere and the emotion that was going to come up for all of us. For the audience, for the cast, for production, everybody involved. I think I personally, I don't think I realised what a big thing I was getting into, and how it would live with me as well. Like a lot of people that you've spoken about, I knew of it. I had an idea that, there was this scandal, but to actually be in a room with people affected by it was something I'll never forget. And I'm so proud that we managed to shine a tiny light on it, and try and make an effort to make an impact. I'm very, very proud of that.
Yeah, what was it like being in the show? Because of course you were on the opening night as well when we were in Birmingham, and Kenny, one of our cast members, was rushed into hospital 2 days before we opened, so we had to have Sebastian on stage with the scripts reading in. It was high pressure, for us, because we wanted to get it right, didn't we? We all wanted to get it right.
Yeah, and I think, like Wendy said, it's very difficult to know how it's going to land as well. You wrote a brilliant script, but until it's on the feet, you don't know how people are going to take it and how it's going to hit. And it is such a sensitive, such a difficult subject. You're talking about people's lives and the injustices served to them, and you don't quite know what kind of impact it's going to have until it's on the floor, till it's up and running. And I mean, I don't think any of the cast expected the tidal wave of emotion that hit us at the end, as performers, and from seeing the emotion. I can't express it. The emotion, it doesn't sound enough. People were in pieces. I remember seeing sub postmasters just sobbing, and at the end when there's the sort of the sub postmasters shouting out, cheering, being very vocal. it was really overwhelming. And you just think, gosh, we're doing something really important here. This is really important to these people.
Yeah. I do remember when I think it was Maggie Robson was playing Venables when you were watching it on the last night, and I remember when she first came onto stage, there was like a massive round of boos and hisses, and people were swearing at her and stuff, even when she was doing her lines, and
but
bless
such
her.
an outlet for these people to be able to express something.
Yeah,
you could feel it. There was no doubt.
No, we had no idea there were so many of them in on that night. It was like Tim said, there was probably 30, and it was
Amazing.
It was nuts. Quick question from Mark, who's typed it to keep things running smoothly. Question for Elaine: what emotions you had when you saw the story come alive on Mr. Bates versus Post Office and the media frenzy afterwards? Yeah, I watched that on New Year's Day.
Show.
You haven't seen it?
Haven't seen it.
Oh, you haven't seen it? My God.
No.
Okay.
And the reason I haven't seen it is because I think I'm going to find it a really, really hard watch. Having met some of the Postmasters, and I know I'm going to be in bits if I watch it, which is really lame. But yeah, I will watch it, but I need to just sort of squirrel myself away when I've got time to really crumble.
It's like, you don't, when you're sort of sitting around for an afternoon relaxing at home, you don't go, shall we watch Schindler's List? Let's whack that on. It is something you've got to be in the right frame of mind for. I mean, especially if you're a victim of the scandal, I imagine watching that was no easier than watching our play. And you could turn it off, you could pause it. With our play, you couldn't. We did have one sub-postmaster who came down to see the play in Birmingham, but he didn't make it in. I forget his name now, but he didn't make it in, and I did speak to him on the phone a couple of times, and he was calling me to apologise for not coming in, and I said, you don't need to apologise, mate, for not coming in. And if you don't think you can handle it, the last thing I want to do is put you through any more strain than you've been through already. But you're very welcome, and there's a free ticket for you here. Any night you want to come in, you come in. And if you need to leave, that's fine. I can't remember if he came to see it when we did it the second year or not. But well, look, we're nearly at 11 o'clock, so I don't want to keep people up past their bedtime. And I know Tim's got a hot cup of cocoa waiting for him in the other room. But I just let everybody on my panel here have a last word quickly. If there's anything you want to say either about the play or just the scandal in general, and I'll just chip in. Mark, any final words, mate?
Just to tell the public as a whole, from America, UK to Australia, it's not over. It's still many people haven't got their redress or their apology, and it's still what's the word?
Yeah, it's still going on. It's still
still going
unresolved.
on.
Unresolved. It's still unresolved.
Yeah.
Tim.
Just to echo what Mark said, people assume, we had our convictions quashed, some of us 3 years ago. Everyone's had their convictions quashed now. They assume it's over and it's dealt with. It's not. I'm very pleased to hear from Wendy that she's had her redress. I've had a small interim payment, but I haven't had anywhere near my full redress. My claim's in with the Post Office, and I know from my legal team that they're arguing quite hard on every head of loss. So we've got a bit of a fight on our hands going forward, and I'm sure everyone's in a similar position if they haven't yet, settled. The government and the Post Office love to throw figures out there that they've sorted this X amount of people or these X amount of millions, but it pales in comparison to what the total bill is going to be for the hundreds of people or the thousands of people that they've wronged. And just to reiterate again that we're so grateful, Lance, that you were there, spreading this story before any kind of major media interest had picked up on it. I don't want to be unfair to all the media, because there were stories in papers and on the news, but it just didn't land with the public until this year. So for someone like you to come along, pick it up, and do it justice like you did was absolutely brilliant for all of us.
Thank you ever so much for that, Tim. Wendy, final thoughts quickly.
Couldn't be more proud of you and the Outcasts and what you did. For us, it really was the start of everything else flowing through the media. So I can only hold my hand on my heart and say thank you very much to you all, because you were brilliant.
Well, just to say going forwards, because I know your fight is not over yet. Anytime, and this, please pass this on to all the postmasters you're in contact with, whether they're part of the 555 or not. My channel was probably only at about something like 1,500 subs when you guys first came on. It's nearly at 5,000 now, and it's growing all the time. So anytime you want to come on this channel and talk about the latest thing to do with this scandal that's still happening to you, you call me, and this platform is yours. So,
well, the next thing is whether it's going to become owned by the sub postmasters,
sure,
or privatized, or whatever. You know, that's going to be the next big thing.
And
but unless they get rid of the staff they've got now,
and in the
nothing's going to change.
In the new year, we've got Sir Wynn's report. And it is possible, by the way, that the play might have another short run in Birmingham in 2025.
Cool.
Soon as that might be happening, I'll let you know. And if it is, I'm sure Elaine will be getting a call. So, Elaine, anything quickly before I put the Outcast song on? Because we now have a song. We've got a song for the channel for the Outcast, which you'll find very entertaining when I put it on. Elaine, anything final?
I wasn't expecting to come on, actually. I was only going to just be a listener and a watcher, but
I'm so glad you did, because it's nice to have a member of the cast on. So thank you so much for coming on.
Well, as I say, I'll always be immensely proud of it, and I just think, just keep fighting, keep strong. Know that you are, there's so much love and support and warmth and compassion for the sub postmasters, and just keep on keeping on. And I'm just so sorry for what happened to you, and I just hope that you get your resolutions as soon as possible.
Yeah, and we'll definitely have you all back on just before the report comes out, and probably just after it as well, so where we can discuss what Sir Wynn has said and see if you think it's done you justice. I really got my fingers crossed for Sir Wynn. I really hope. Thanks very much, guys. That's it. This stream was completely unplanned. I thank you so much to the former sub postmasters for coming on, my former cast member Elaine Ward for coming on. I'm back tomorrow at 7 o'clock with the industry interview of Danny Lyons, MC and DJ, massive on the London dance scene. I'll be interviewing him, and I've got 3 more interviews coming up in the next couple of weeks, including Jeffrey Byron, Hollywood actor. I've also got Adele Anya, DJ, coming up, and we've got Pat Mills, one of the creators of 2000 AD and Judge Dredd, huge man, the godfather of British comics. So you're going to find that interview incredibly exciting. But for now, that's it from us. Here's the Outcast song again.
Where all the misfits and dreamers get innovative. It's film, TV, and theater in the mix. Industry interviews, where ideas get their fix. He's creative, we're creative. How about you? Share your passion, join the crew. At Outcast Creative, we're breaking through. Hang with Lance and the Outcast crew. Hang with Lance and the Outcast crew. Interviews with fellow artists on the rise, and reviews that might surprise. with Lance and the Outcast crew.